Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be looking at how you can approach an organic reactions question. Usually it's structured in the form of a diagram, a flow diagram. So I'm going to show you how you can approach it in order for you to master this topic fully in the exam, right? So it says the diagram below shows how various organic compounds can be prepared using hexane as a starting reagent. Before I get on with this, I'm going to be using some abbreviations. I don't know if you call them abbreviations or mnemonics, but yeah, one of the two that help to be able to break down the flow diagram, right? Those are triple S, USA. Here, the triple S is saturated to saturated, is for substitution reactions. The S here is for saturated to unsaturated, will be an elimination reaction. And then it's unsaturated to saturated. That will be an addition reaction, right? So in this instance, when we're talking about saturated compounds, we are referring to saturated, we are referring to alkanes and haloalkanes and alcohols, right? These are all saturated. And unsaturated in our situation is just going to be referring to alkenes. So we won't be doing alkynes, right? So that triple S USA is what we want to use to break down the diagram. Okay, let's go back to the diagram. Right, in the diagram that we are given here, it's various ways that are used to prepare hexane as a starting, using hexane as a starting reagent. So if you look at reaction 1, there's hexane to form propene. Okay, let's start with the hexane. Hexane is an alkane with 6 carbons and 8 hydrogens. This would be the structural formula of a hexane, right? And then they say that hexane, reaction 1, reacts under certain conditions to form propene. Now, if you look there carefully, from hexane to propene, that's from 6 carbons to 3 carbons, because a propene looks like this. Right? So that's from 6 carbons to 3 carbons. That's one thing to notice. And then, if you remember these that I just showed you now, this hexane would be a saturated. This propene, which is an alkene, is an unsaturated organic molecule, which means this reaction 1 that is happening here is an elimination reaction, this one, right? So reaction 1 is an elimination reaction. And then that elimination reaction forms propene and another compound A. So if you remember well, from elimination reactions, we did dehydration, dehydrohalogenation, and as well as thermal cracking, right? I hope I'm not forgetting one. So those are the 3 that we did. If you remember from those, the last one is dehydrohalogenation. So if you remember from those 4, thermal cracking was the one where you formed 2 shorter, or rather 2 organic molecules with shorter carbon chains, right? So during thermal cracking, what are the reaction conditions? This is helping me to prepare for the exam, right? So when I look at this diagram, for each, I can break it down to say what type of reaction is happening, what type of elimination, that's thermal cracking, and then I can look at what are the conditions for thermal cracking. So reaction 1, we just said reaction 1 is an elimination reaction. And a specific type of elimination reaction. What are the reaction conditions? That's heat, high heat, and high pressure. Right? And then we know that during thermal cracking, what happens? The number of carbons that you had initially before applying the high heat and high pressure to that system, and the number of carbons you're going to have in your product should be the same, as well as the number of hydrogens. So we had, of the 6 carbons, 3 have formed the propene, which means from the C6H8 to the C3H6, 3 of the carbons have been used to form propene, which means for compound A, I must be having 3 more carbons that are left from what I had initially. And then as for, sorry, not 8, this is 14. And then as for the number of hydrogens that I have left, that's going to be 14 minus 6, which is going to give me 8 hydrogens, right? So you'll see that if you can be able to analyze this diagram very well, all the questions are going to be asking you what you've already answered, right? Because compound A is an unknown compound. So they can ask you, write down the structural formula of compound A. You would have already figured that out. So compound A would be C3H8, and this is the structural formula. And the name would be a propane, IUPAC name. That's compound A. Then let's move on to reaction 2. They say this propene is now undergoes a certain reaction 2 under these conditions to form compound C. So again, you have to figure out whether you're forming what kind of product, saturated or unsaturated. So you know that when you have a unsaturated organic compound, now it is undergoing a reaction with the H2. As you can see from these, an unsaturated organic compound will only deal with the addition in unsaturated organic compounds, which means when you go from the propene, H2 is added to form compound C. The nickel here is a catalyst. If you remember, there was also palladium that can also be a catalyst, and platinum, right? So this nickel is a catalyst, which means compound C is addition of hydrogens to the propene. So remember, you had a propene, it was like this, right? Now you are adding hydrogens, so you're adding H on both the two adjacent carbons that had the double bond. So now you have a propane basically as compound C. So compound C is going to be a propane. And then they say compound C undergoes a reaction. So compound C is obviously a saturated compound. It undergoes a reaction 3 to form another saturated compound. So saturated to saturated, that means it must be a substitution reaction, right? They say in that substitution reaction, there's now a halogen that is introduced, bromo in the second carbon. So it means if I was to draw the structural formula of 2-bromopropane, it would look like this. Right? So this hydrogen has been substituted for a Br. So this is a substitution, the type of reaction, reaction 2, or rather reaction 3. Is a substitution. The type of substitution is halogenation. And the reaction conditions are heat, right? And you have formed 2-bromopropane. They say this 2-bromopropane then undergoes reaction 4, which is a dehydrohalogenation. So the dehydrohalogenation is the removal of a hydrogen, and a halogen, right? So it means from this molecule, the hydrogen and a halogen is removed. So hydrogen, halogen, and hydrogen, like that, right? Then they say write down compound E. So dehydrohalogenation is the type of reaction, it's elimination. And the type of elimination is dehydrohalogenation. Compound E would then be, so you went from saturated and you eliminated, which means you're expecting this to be an unsaturated compound, right? So it's going to be, if I remove the H and the Br here, I'm going to have a double bond here, and I'll be left with 2 hydrogens. And it's going to look like that. So that's also a propene, right? So this is a very helpful way of approaching the organic reactions question, especially for grade 12, where you find that a lot of people are struggling with this question. What is important is for you to remember your 3 types of reactions on top of the combustion and the esterification, but especially remembering this one is going to assist you with the addition, substitution, and elimination. And then make sure you're identifying, are you dealing with saturated or unsaturated compounds? Work through the diagram first and then answer the questions after working through the diagram. You see how I've broken it down? Any question that I get is going to relate to the answers that I have here. So when I'm breaking it down, I also put in the conditions. I also put in the type of reaction. If it's, for instance, elimination, type of elimination, and I work around it like that. I hope you found the video to be very helpful, and it's going to assist you in answering your exam papers. And I think it gets you to calm down a bit for this question, which a lot of people think is challenging. But what is important is that you really have to know all your conditions and then know how to break down the diagram so that it seems like something that is more easy to understand for yourself. Thank you for tuning into my video. I hope you found this to be very helpful. Please look at the other videos where I also explained other types of organic molecules. Please also subscribe, like, and share with other people. Share with your classmates. the videos so that you can be assisted for your exams. Thank you so much for tuning in.